So good afternoon to everyone. With this presentation, I'm moving to a little bit different topic. So I'm working in the field of wastewater and waste management and treatment. And since 4 years, I'm using this, I'm working with this special insect, which is the black soldier fly, for the treatment of, in particular, of wastewater. And I would like to talk about with this presentation about the big advantages that we can have from these from the use of these insects, focusing on the resources that we can gain from these insects. But before talking about the protagonist of this presentation, I would like to show you how I met this very nice friend. So some years ago, I was really interested by this concept that I go through, which is the blue economy concept, which is basically suggesting to try to solve problems, any kinds of problems, finding the solutions in what nature already offers, so in what nature already invented. Not only for solving the problem, but also trying to gaining opportunities for gaining business and innovation out of these technologies. So basically, we are trying to solving a problem. In my case, specifically, the problem is the problem of the waste and wastewater. Taking inspiration in nature, but at the same time trying to also gain economic benefits out of these technologies, which are typically used. This is basically the concept of the blue economy, and the technologies belonging to these concepts are typically called as nature-based technologies. And you know that in my sector, in the sector of the waste management, nowadays the circular economy, the concept of the circular economy increased a lot in this sector. And actually, what I realize is that if the circular economy tried to solve the problem of the waste, recovering resources from the waste, actually the blue economy can really help the achievement, the final goal of the circular economy, trying to find at the same time the solutions from nature. Okay, so now let's start about talking about the black soldier fly. So the black soldier fly is a tropical insect, which is nowadays also spreading in temperate climate. It's quite similar to our domestic Musca domestica, so domestic fly, okay? Apart from the dimension, you can see here it's like 3 times bigger, our common fly. But the life cycle is more or less similar to our domestic musca. I mean, they are growing from the egg stage to the larva stage, and then they became finally prepupa and then pupa, before becoming at the end a fly and starting again the cycle. But what is the peculiarity of this insect compared to the others, particularly of this fly compared to the others fly? The peculiarity is that when this fly becomes a fly, actually, it loses the functionality of the oral apparatus. So this means that it stops feeding when it becomes a fly, and all the resources that they need for the fly stage and then for the oviposition, they need to accumulate during the larva stage. So that's why the dimension of the fly, but also the dimension of the larva, it's quite bigger compared to the Musca domestica, because all the nutrients they need, they have to accumulate during the larva stage. And you can see here from the picture that actually the larvae are like 2 times longer, but even 3 times heavier than the larvae of the Musca domestica. So actually, these insects can be used for, can be exploited for the biowaste stabilization when they are larvae, to exploit their big voracity in consuming organic material. So we can use them for biowaste stabilization, but at the same time, as they are accumulating a lot of lipids and protein in the biomass, we can actually then recover the biomass for resource recovery. Nowadays, this insect is used for treating different kinds of solid organic waste. So from the food waste coming from the separate collection to manures, crop waste, food processing waste, and many others. And at the end of the treatment, what we get is basically residues, stabilized residues, more or less like what happened in the composting. Okay, we are achieving at the end a soil-like material like compost. So the question could be, okay, but is it nothing more than composting, this treatment? What is the advantages of this treatment? Basically, the big advantage that we have out of this treatment is that we are producing at the same time the larval biomass. That, as I was explaining you before, we can reuse for different kinds of resource recovery. We can extract, we can use directly as animal feed, okay, or we can extract specifically the lipids for industrial applications, for example, for biodiesel production, or we can extract other specific compounds like proteins or chitin for, again, industrial animal feed or even other industrial applications. So at the end, you can now realize how this technology can actually perfectly fit in the blue economy concept, because now we are dealing with bio-waste, solving this problem, gaining resources because we are gaining biomass out of this treatment, but using actually simply the nature and what nature already offers. So practically what we can gain out of this larvae, I'm taking now numbers from literature under optimum conditions. Okay, so they are lab scale tests under optimum conditions, and starting from 500 grams of bio-waste, we can assume that under optimum condition we can get like 100 grams of dry mass in terms of larvae, which is made out of 50% of proteins and about 20% of lipids. So out of these 10 grams of larvae, we can get 50 grams of proteins and 30 grams of crude fat. And more, if we want to move from the crude fat to the biodiesel, we can actually gain like 28 grams of biofuel. That is, if you have a look to the data here, is actually fitting the quality which is required by the European standards. Okay, now the research has been focused on a different substrate. Actually, my research was focusing on trying to use this particular insect on for treating the wastewater. It was quite challenging research because the larvae is actually a terrestrial insect. So even if they can survive feeding on soluble organics, when the water level is too high, they tend to die because of drowning. So we were trying to solve this problem, getting this solution, this patent solution, and we are just working on trying to mix the liquid wastewater that we want to treat with some plastic granules on which larvae can easily move. So they can, you can see here in the picture on the right, they can easily go deep into the wastewater when they want to feed, but then at the same time they have the possibility to come to the surface when they need to breathe. So we solve this problem in view of trying to getting resources also from the wastewater treatment, because nowadays wastewater is treated using microbes, okay, biomass activated sludges. And these, particularly in Italy, represent a very big problem, because it's half of the cost of a wastewater treatment plant is the managing of the sludges which are produced out of this plant. In this case, instead, the biomass is not the waste, but is a source of potential resources. Okay, here, if you're interested, you can find some of our publications on the topic. I think that's all. So thank you for your attention. If you have any curiosity, just ask.